In the moonlit embrace of rural Victoria, the decadent town of Buckley beats with a hidden heartbeat, the sanctuary of free-willed kindred. An anarch haven since the gold rush, Buckley's shadows hold secrets, its nights untamed. Yet the looming spectre of the Camarilla now threatens the delicate balance. As long-forgotten feuds simmer, a group of neonates bound by loyalty and survival find themselves at the epicenter of a power struggle. The Camarilla's tendrils tighten, and Buckley teeters on the brink of open war. Welcome to the dance of shadows in Buckley, where the anarch flame flickers against the encroaching night, a tale of defiance, politics, and the seductive allure of eternal power. This is Creatures Such as We, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast, presented by DM Fiat. I am your storyteller, Dale, or DG, and tonight I shall be your guide through this hidden and treacherous world of darkness. Nights in Buckley are, at this time of year, cold and quiet. It's the serene yet eerie emptiness of rural Victoria, the Australian outback, everything bathed in inky blackness, the only source of light, the twinkling stars above. But tonight, it's not quiet, not in the same way. Tonight, it's tense. You're not sure why, but you can all feel it. You felt it ever since you awoke tonight, ever since you begun that interrogation, ever since you set out to get Mr. Rose. Something is different tonight. It's like the entire city is quivering in anticipation for something to happen, for a spark to ignite the powder keg and send this whole domain spiraling down the drain. Will you guys be the catalyst? Let's find out. You're definitely feeling that sense of anticipation, that unconscious knowledge that something is about to happen. Your beasts are on edge, growling, prowling in the pits of your subconscious as you gear up to assault the church tonight. You're currently gathered in an empty little parking lot on a street corner, a block or two away from the church. The Wardang River is close by, and at this time of night it's little more than a vein of inky blackness, nothingness, swirling its way through the city, dissecting Langdon in two, cutting it away from the rest of the city. And it is here, on the edge of this river, that the Church of the Guiding Light presides. You're making sure you've got everything ready, one last minute check. And then you hear the sound of tyres crunching over asphalt. You whirl around and find yourself staring into the face of high beam lights. A dirty brown SUV rolls up into the parking lot and comes to a stop directly in front of you. The engine doesn't turn off, and whoever's behind the wheel seems to relish shining the high beams directly into your faces. The doors pop and out step two kindred. The first, looking unsure of herself, looking incredibly uncertain, is of course Desiree, her messy black hair
looking exactly the same as every other time you've seen her, her knitted black turtleneck covered in flecks of dandruff and skin. As she walks, the myriad of talismans and necklaces jingle around her neck. The other figure, taller, stockier, clad in his trademark black trench coat, his long, flowing blonde hair seemingly glowing in the haze of the light. As he sees the coterie, Pierce flashes a smile, revealing rows of sharp, blood-stained teeth. "Finally making a move," he says. "Baron says I'm to assist and make sure it gets done."
That's about the long and short of it. Good to see you both. Alright,
Hey.
Do you have any questions before we get started?
Desiree looks around and she squints at you through the high beam lights and she says, "So, Barry said something about blood magic and... So this church used to be a guild house for a hermetic order, and so what? You need me to take down the defenses, the wards, any crazy artifacts they've got lying around, and then we're even, right? I get my boon from the Baron, and we're done. You're not expecting me to head in there and roughhouse with your sire or anything like that?"
No. We just may need you to make sure that we're not going to walk into anything invisible and full of fire.
"Well, I think I can handle that," she says. She immediately turns around and begins rifling through the glove compartment in the SUV, getting out little glass vials and bags of ritual components. Meanwhile, Pierce...
As to artifacts, do be careful what you touch. If the opportunity arises to rob them, I wouldn't mind, but let's make sure we don't take any unnecessary risks. Barry, do you remember our conversation about keys, yes? And as Wisteria says that, she texts Glenda Wagoner to start opening up the accounts for the big push, including the London accounts.
And she gets back a prompt "yes, ma'am" within 30 seconds. Glenda's always reliable, always there when you can count on her, and she knows exactly what to do tonight. "Just remember," says Pierce, and his hand shoots beyond the brim of his trench coat, and his thumb fingers the hilt of his axe. "We're here to take down a traitor to the cause. Anything you want to lift, any other business you got, you do it on your own time, and only when Thaddeus is rotting on the floor, understand?"
Oh, don't worry about that, Mr. Pierce. The Baron shall get his due tonight, and you'll get a good amount of exercise, I expect.
"Oh, I've been looking forward to it," he says, and with a click, out comes his axe from underneath the trench coat, and even though you're not even at the church, he immediately starts swinging it through the air, and again, embedding the blade in a wooden pillar running along the edge of the parking lot, cutting the fence in twain. "Baron says you're to be trusted, that you got it in for your sire just as much as he does. Well, I'm here to make sure that no second thoughts get in the way."
I'm sure you're here to take my head if I betray him.
You
And
better
that's
believe
perfectly
it.
okay, I don't plan on it.
He hefts the axe out of the fence pillar and turns and glares at Barry. "And that goes for everyone here, especially you, copper."
Barry hasn't done or said anything. He's just locked eyes with Pierce this whole time. And I think he might be trying to make an insight check.
Go ahead and make one. "Once a copper, always a copper," says Pierce.
Insight and wits.
Wits insight, please, yes.
Four successes.
4 successes to his 3 successes. He's hard to read. You see in his face, the face of a hardened criminal, the type of man who is capable of setting goals and sticking to them. A kind of man who is capable of feeling loyalty for someone or something, but isn't afraid to cast away anything that stands between him and his goal. It's not that he wants to pick a fight with you, Barry, but that intense look of distrust and amusement, anticipation, curiosity. He's waiting for you to slip up so he can take your head and be done with it. But he's also curious to see what you're capable of, you think. Sure you, don't need a warrant, copper, he says. Want to do this one by the book?
I'm just ignoring him and just getting prepared.
Given where we're going, the book is the Book of the Dead, and we're wasting moonlight. Shall we get on with it?
Let's go then, says Pierce, hefting his axe once more, and then gripping it in both hands as his heavy boots crunch over the asphalt. He doesn't even wait for you, doesn't look over his shoulder, he just sets off walking at a brisk pace down the road towards the church. Desiree shrugs, laughs nervously, and hurries after him, and then Wisteria motions for everyone to follow her.
Secret tunnels this way.
And so, you move. You move to the secret tunnel. You pass by the church itself, not close enough for anyone within the church to see you, but enough for you to finally, after all this time, set eyes upon Thaddeus's haven, upon the Church of the Guiding Light, the supposed epicenter of this new Sedite dogma. And it's not much. It's an old colonial-era building, clearly not intended to be a church. Its facade weathered, colourless, fading, broken. Whatever funds the Ventru are pouring into this thing, it hasn't done much to make it stand out from the other worn-down, broken buildings that surround it. You can just make out a crowd of people congregated in the yard in front of the church. They seem to be random civilians. They're not wearing uniforms or cloaks or any identifying marks, but there is a large group of people standing in silence in front of the church, as if waiting for something. And then you pass by the church, jump down into the storm drain, and your footsteps slosh and squish in the putrid black water. The canal itself is putrid and vile, and it stinks, even during the rain. The stones that pave the canal side are slick and slippery, and even though you're vampires, you find yourselves having to be careful as you move, lest you fall into the water. Light barely filters in from the outside, with the yellow light from the street lamps causing a moving dapple-like pattern on the canal walls as the light is reflected off the dark water. Here you come to an archway dug into the side of the canal. Beyond is a tunnel, unlit, a pitch-black hole that, according to the plans you hold, leads right into the underbelly of the church, and it's here where Desiree stops and raises her hand. She begins to trace a finger along the archway, muttering under her breath. A ward. Definitely a ward, I can sense it. A ward against kindred and other supernatural intruders, and... Oh, but it's old, though. She runs her palm across the stone. The carvings have all but faded, and... one of you, come up, help me locate at least some of the arcane circuitry. Then I can disrupt it. Should be easy enough, but it's so old, I'm having a hell of a time finding it.
Wisteria looks at Aveline.
Evelina. Evelina, you step forwards, and if you'd like to help her find what she's looking for, go ahead and roll me a wits plus occult check.
That's no problem, I can do that.
I'm glad that you know this. I certainly don't.
You're no blood magician, Evelina, but you've studied enough of the occult that you're sure you can find something that looks like it's not meant to be there. Something that's not just the old carvings inlaid into the canal walls or the stonework of the archway. Something magical. How did you go?
Four successes.
4 successes. You find it quite easily. You're looking in a completely different place from Desiree, and it's no wonder she couldn't find them, because the ward is not inscribed into the archway itself, but into the floor that runs underneath. Faded notch marks embedded in the stone, evidence of an arcane symbol that was once there. You pointed out to Desiree. "Ah, there it is," she says. She immediately kneels over, muttering under her breath, and you hear the sound of several glass vials being arranged in front of her. It should be easy enough to remove, but well, they've put a lot of energy into it, and there's going to need to be a bit of blood behind any sort of counter charm I put on it. I will, of course, put up some of my own, but, well, she looks around at you, shrugs. I don't have a dog in this game, so if anyone wants to step up, it would be much obliged. Pierce looks at each of you in turn. He nods his head. Do it. Do it quickly.
For someone who has studied these magics, maybe you'd think it would be a lot easier for you to be able to find these things, and I'll just hold out my wrist.
Go ahead, Wisteria.
He is my sire. I suppose one should take responsibility. And I'll hold out mine.
At this, Desiree smiles. And she says, Good. You are willing to do at least some of the work, then. She seems to ignore you entirely, Evelina, perhaps because of your remark. She steps right past you, grabs Wisteria's wrist, and with a small silver knife, slits it. A drop of Wisteria's blood dribbles down over the archway in front of her, and as it does, bright light begins to glow. The runes set into the ward light up bright white, and then Desiree slashes her own wrist, sprinkles some of her blood over them, and the light fades. She steps back and, with a flourish, gestures towards the archway. Voila! The ward is pacified.
Excellent. Well, about
Evelina
10
rolls her eyes and just taps her hands together.
Perhaps, Miss Evelina, says Desiree, as you are so, have such a keen eye for the arcane, perhaps you'd like to lead the way. She gestures into the pitch black darkness ahead.
Can I activate the night vision eyes that I have?
You sure can. No blood required for eyes of the beast. You take a step beyond the archway, and despite her saying the ward was removed, you still feel a momentary prickle of what feels like static electricity on the surface of your skin. Unusual, because vampires have no moisture in their skin to conduct static electricity. But nothing else seems to happen, and then you feel your eyes twist and warp, and the pitch black turns into a brightly lit grey.
Interesting.
Wisteria, completely insensitive to her awesome powers, clicks on a flashlight. A torch. You keep an eye out for the occult thingies, and I'll keep an eye out for anything mundane. Sound good?
And I'll keep an eye on you, says Pierce, still hefting his axe.
You might want to keep an eye on him, and Wisteria points back at the others. And when he looks, she's gone.
Activating her
Yep.
unseen passage, and does she get hungrier?
Does not get hungrier. Roll to
Very nice. Yeah, says Gil, slamming a fist into his open palm. Enough with the showboat, and let's get this shit over and done with. And then you're off, following Gavelina as she leads you down the canal. And so does Wisteria, in her own way. As you move deeper into the canal network, find yourselves thankful that at least one of you, at least Avelina, can amplify what little light still exists and lead you ahead, because once you're in the canal network itself, it feels like you're moving through the intestines of a large, hungry creature. The same featureless stone walls and passages crisscrossing each other with little rhyme or reason. The whole network seemingly purposely designed to confuse and obfuscate. Avelina, you are leading... Go ahead.
I was just about to ask, can I use Linala to help us make passage through? Because she'll be a very good asset to be able to echolocate through the darkness.
Especially now that she's been new and improved. Go ahead and make a charisma animal she's your familiar, is she not?
She is.
She is your familiar, so I'd like you to go ahead and make me a charisma plus animalism check for me. No blood needed.
1 success, 1 crit.
1 success, 1 crit. The rest of you see Avelina's shadow moving, and you hear the telltale sound of her bat's wings take flight, and off she goes. Somewhere in the distance, you hear a terrible screech. But Avelina seems to know what it is, seems to hone in on that screeching like the ping of a raider, and picks up her pace. And with 2 successes, Avelina, you're able, with Lunala's help, to lead the coterie through this maze, heading in a direction that, well, you're not certain, but Lunala certainly is, leads to the church itself. A few minutes later, Desiree suddenly stops, holds out her hand. Wait! And Avelina, through the eyes of the beast, you see that you've emerged in a patch of the canal where the walls and the roof above you are completely covered in a thick greyish-green moss. At this point, the brackish water is nearly up to your knees, but you suspect the moss covers the floor as well, descending deep under the water's surface. Do you feel that? Whispers Wisteria. Magic in the air. But she looks around. I don't see any obvious signs. No wards, no circuitry, no ritual marks, no runes. Get on with it, says Pierce. Either figure out what it is and put a stop to it, or keep walking. Desiree turns around and she shrugs. Well, if this is blood magic or magic at all, I've not seen anything like it, so, what do you think we should do?
Would this be like the last one, etched into the walls?
Desiree's watching the walls. It's hard to see the walls at all with all the thick moss in front of them. You can't even see the stone underneath. I don't think so, she says, unless it's under all this, and if it was like the last one, it'd be on the floor, which means it's in the water, and she peers down at her feet. I can't see anything.
Does Evelina see anything?
Evelina, you can go ahead and make me another wits plus occult check.
And Barry might just be looking for any imperfections in the room around, just by using his Auspex.
Yeah, go ahead.
Successes.
6 successes, and Barry, go ahead. Well, you might see other things. Barry, go ahead, make me a wits investigate check and add your Auspex, because you have heightened senses active.
Okay.
Wisteria will look for secret doors or some way to bypass this.
Just 4 successes.
4 successes. So Wisteria, you're invisible. No one can see where you are, and the coterie probably doesn't have any idea that you're considerably ahead of them. So I'll ask you a question. Do you try to make your way through this patch of thick moss in your search?
She's identified the water as, and the ground as the main focus of this, yes?
She suspects it might be, though as she peers down into the water, you could tell there's no way she could be certain without sticking her head in the water and actually examining the floor.
This is what we brought her here for, so Wisteria's gonna hold up and let her do her thing.
So, Evelina, it's hard to see the stone, the walls, the roof, the floor. The moss obscures everything, but it occurs to you that the moss itself is unnatural. The way it's grown so thick in this particular place and nowhere else in the canal. The rest of the canal, and indeed the storm drain outside, appears to be utterly bare of life. The smelly, brackish water doesn't seem to be able to sustain much of anything, and yet here, it's grown to such an unmanageable state that it's impossible to see what lies underneath. And Barry, as Wisteria moves forward, the only sign of her presence being the ripples made on the surface of the water, and as Desiree begins to poke around underfoot with her fingers, and the beam of the flashlight crossing over the moss, you, Barry, see the greenery seem to shake, seem to shiver, as if it's alive, as if it's breathing.
I want to go touching the walls if I was anyone at all.
It's touching the wall, but I don't think any of the coterie are touching the walls.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
The moss is moving.
Well, if it's alive, then we will make sure... If it's alive, then we'll cut it down, says Pierce, and he moves to take a step forwards.
Barry immediately grabs his arm.
Scared, copper?
No. I just don't want you to fuck up again.
This is their sort of anime. Wisteria will look at the ceiling. Is the moss up there?
It is up there too, though perhaps slightly less thick than elsewhere.
Alright. How high up is the ceiling?
Not much higher than your head. The canal tunnel's only really big enough to admit someone entry. You don't have to duck or anything, but the top of your head's very nearly grazing the ceiling.
She'll have to go visible for this. She'll pull out her gloves, pull out a small hammer, and start tapping a python into the ceiling directly above her.
And as she does, as soon as she touches the ceiling, the greenery shivers visibly this time, and with a rustling sound, the moss bursts to life, coalescing into long whip-like tendrils that lash out, surrounding the coterie. They erupt from under the water, from the floor, from the walls, from the roof, and instantly, within less than a second, a mass of writhing snake-like vines attempt to grab you, attempt to constrain you and pull you under the water. Desiree screams and jumps back. Well, I know what it is, at least, and furiously begins rifling through her components. It's gonna take a second, though.
Yes, but do buy her time, please.
Pierce steps forwards. He doesn't need to be told. He just grunts, and as one of the tendrils lashes out towards him, his axe comes down and whoosh, cuts it off, beheading the snake, and the tentacle drops uselessly into the water. But the rest of you, what are the rest of you doing?
Moving back and concentrating on not getting hentaied.
Evelina? What are you doing? Claws coming out. Go ahead. Make a hunger check.
Weed whacker.
Weed whacker activate.
Success.
There's the sound of snapping bones and warping flesh, and Evelina charges forwards with her hand shaped into a bone scythe. So you want to cut the vines away, Evelina? With your new... Yes, very good idea. Probably going to make some difference in what Desiree's doing. And Robert and Barry, what are you guys doing?
Robert's, gonna be more so trying to dodge, but he's like pulled his knife out and is just like slashing it in. He doesn't get too close, but he's more so focused on just like, dodging back, trying not to get grabbed.
And Barry?
Barry's just gonna try his best if they grab him, just to tear off the vines.
Oh. Evelina, I'd like you to go ahead and roll me a strength or dexterity plus brawl check, but please subtract 2 dice from your pool, because these tentacles, there's a lot of them, the mass is very dense, and it's hard to even move, let alone get a bead on exactly where your scythe is going to cut.
2 successes.
2 successes? Wisteria, Evelina rushes forwards, her scythe comes down and whoosh, slices one of the tentacles just as it's about to grab Desiree's arm and pull her under. She whirls around on the spot and, with a 1 from the tentacles, whoosh, deftly slices another one out of the way just as it was about to wrap itself around her neck. Wisteria, you're trying to get back, so I'd like you to go ahead and make me a Dex Athletics check with a 2 dice penalty.
Right then. I'll go ahead and boost dexterity, it seems to me. And I don't get hungrier. Alright. That will be... Oh, I really don't want to get grabbed. Oh, I'll spend a willpower. 3 successes.
3 successes? That's enough. 3 tentacles emerge from the water. 1 goes for your neck, the other 2 for your arms, but you leap into the air, roll backwards, and land on your backside in the slosh a few feet away from the mossy patch. The tentacles writhe, trying to stretch, trying to reach you, but they're just a few centimeters too short. You're vaguely aware of Pierce glaring at you as he hefts his axe and slices through yet another one. Robert, you have a choice. You could try to get yourself clear, or you could try to defend yourself, or you can do both, but you'll have to split the dice pool.
Yeah, he's mostly going to be focusing on just getting himself clear.
All right, go ahead. Make me a dexterity athletics check with a 2 dice penalty.
Yes. Yeah, I think I'm going to rouse dexterity as well.
Probably very wise.
Oh, success, I don't get hungrier.
Very nice.
Oh, dex athletic. Brings me back to my regular pool. Ew, I might want to... Yeah, I'm going to willpower that. Alright, that's 1 success, which is better than a bestial failure.
Definitely better.
Yeah.
You leap backwards and feel the back of your ankle collide with something slimy in the water. You lose your footing just as a particularly large vine bursts from the water, wraps itself around your shin and begins to pull you violently to the ground. You feel your head slammed, dragged against the rock, and you take 1 point of superficial damage, and then with a one of your toes pops off. 1,000 ants scurry, drowning, roiling in the water, but it's enough to give you room, just enough leeway to pull yourself free from the vine and join Wisteria, standing a few feet back. Hundreds of tiny little legs scurry and squirm as the water sucks them away down to their deaths. And then, Barry, you think you've got a pretty clear shot. The rest of the coterie are defending themselves, and all you need do is turn and run. But then, as Desiree fumbles one of her vials, ripples shoot across the water, and a huge vine, nearly as thick as a tree trunk, shoots out. Its tip long, sharp, pointed like a scorpion's barb, and it makes a beeline straight for her. Little help, she calls out.
I'll spear tackle it.
Spear tackle it. Go ahead, Barry. Make me a dexterity plus brawl, and give yourself a 2 dice penalty, please.
Oh. So not strength plus brawl?
Okay, you can do strength plus brawl.
Okay, but 2 dice penalty.
2 dice penalty.
Okay. I think that's it. Okay. 1 success?
1 success. Well, you succeed in saving Desiree, although as you near the vine, you realize that tackling this thing isn't going to do anything, so you change your trajectory at the last moment. Instead, you spear tackle Desiree. She screams with shock and surprise as you send her flying out of the monstrous tentacle's path, only for it to lash at your chest, knocking you off your feet. You take a single point of superficial damage, and you look up, feeling your mouth drop open as the sharp barb begins to descend towards your chest, and you realize it is very oddly has the same size and consistency as a stake. And then there's the sound of splashing water, and Gil charges forwards, both fists clenched, and with a single use of his wrecking ball, slam! Smashes his fist into the huge vine, snapping it in two, splintering you with wood and sap. And then you hear Desiree scream, "Aha! and a flash of light fills the tunnel. The moss begins to burn and sizzle, dropping off the stone, falling into the water, until all that's left is a black tar-like substance floating on the surface. Breathes Desiree. It is inert. We may proceed.
That was fun.
That's only the start of it, she says. But I thank you. A second later, it would have pulled me under the water, and well, that would have made things very difficult indeed. Yeah, says Pierce. We press on. And so you do, Evelina still taking the lead, the bats screeching, still pinging like a sonar to guide the way, until finally you seemingly come to the end of the tunnel. There's no fanfare, there's nothing special, there's no grand chamber, there's no torches to signal that you've come to the end. Rather, the tunnel just stops. At first, you think it's a dead end. The same featureless stone walls as anywhere else in the tunnel. But then, Evelina, with your eyes of the beast, you make out grooves in the stone. A secret door cut into the wall, almost indistinguishable from it.
What do you think of this, Desiree?
Desiree studies it. She shrugs. Well, I think it's a normal door. Who'd like to be the one to do the honors?
I'll give it a look.
To approach it, Wisteria. I'd like you to go ahead. Awesome. As you approach it, I'd like you to go ahead and make me a wits awareness check, please, Wisteria.
Absolutely.
Praise be to Aspirin.
Oh, yes. Okay. Wits awareness is only one success. I'm having trouble finding the latch, I'm afraid.
There doesn't appear to be a latch or any kind of visible handle. What you do notice, however, with one success, is that in the very center of the door, there are markings, scuff marks, on the stone that, perhaps coincidentally or perhaps not, seem to resemble a face. A scuff mark here for the mouth, another one for the nose, two more smaller ones for eyes.
Somebody has drawn a face on this.
Face? Says Desiree. She edges forward, squinting in the darkness.
Wisteria shines the flashlight on it.
See, she says. Well, that complicates things, she says. Because I suspect I know what that is, and no amount of fancy blood magic on my part is going to get us past.
What is it?
Tell me, she says, have any of you ever heard of a brazen head? No?
That note was on the papers, wasn't it?
Yeah, right here, says Gil.
Is it a
Ward's
bit like...
Garden, Brazen Head.
Brazen Head is a bit like a mechanical Turk, isn't it? I stole a device like that once, an automaton that was supposed to speak. I imagine this is the magical version of that, yes?
Precisely, says Desiree. Far beyond anything capable, far beyond anything that you could wrought with blood magic. This is... Well, the Hermetic Order must have put this in long ago, and Thaddeus, for whatever reason, felt it worth his time to simply leave it there. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, she strokes her chin deep in thought, we need not fight it, but it will ask for something. brazen heads. They're sort of like sentinels. They ask questions, and they have an uncanny ability to tell truth from lie.
Well, how does one activate it?
She says, and she steps forwards and nonchalantly places the palm of her hand on the secret door, and as she does, the whole wall seems to shudder. The markings of the face move, not only move, but gain definition, and it seems as if a face grows out of the stone, warping the stonework around it. Stone eyes stare blankly at you as a face, as the face silently judges, and its mouth twists into a sinister smile. Who be here intending to get through the door? Comes a slow, raspy voice.
Just a pack of sinners looking to talk with the resident priests.
Can smell the stench of sin upon you?
Then you know we speak true.
You speak true, but within is the sanctum that is off limits to sinners, and the only reason a sinner would mean to gain entry is because they wish to impart harm on those within. And so I ask, what are your intentions in this place this night?
There are sinners already within, and we are to cleanse them from the sanctum.
Cleanse the sinners. There is a repository of sacred knowledge within, materials that are not for the eyes of any sinner. What do you intend to do with those? Are they also to be cleansed?
I didn't know about it until it was here. Well, I can return them to their rightful owner. Or owners. Who are they? Who are the rightful owners?
At this, the brazen head stares blankly. It seems to have no problem asking questions, but when you answer, when you are the one asking a question, it doesn't seem particularly keen to answer. My purpose is to ensure that only those worthy of what lies beyond may enter. The answers to any mysteries will not be freely offered. You must offer something in turn.
And what is it you desire?
An answer to a mystery, for an answer to a mystery.
Then speak the mystery.
The mystery, I ask. It trails off, as it seems to think, and after a few minutes of silence, it speaks again. There are many eyes on this place this night, many eyes on that which lies within. And many of those eyes center upon you, Wisteria. And so I ask, what storm do you bring upon this place this night? And what shall become of this city, this domain, and all within it?
I bring chaos, disruption of the order. I bring a reckoning long overdue. I bring him. She jerks a thumb back at Pierce.
Pierce
And if you think
Pierce-
I'm chaos, ooh, take a look at that one.
Pierce glares at the brazen head. He hefts his axe and he says, "That good enough for you? Because this thing has no problem with stonework."
As to what will happen with the city afterwards, I don't exactly know, and is it that exciting?
"Oh, very exciting indeed," says the face. "Many shall die. Many shall die for good. And you are the catalyst. And so I ask my next question. Were you aware? Were you aware that you are the one who will blow everything open? Are you aware that you are the spark to ignite the powder keg?"
I'd gotten some inkling in that regards, yes. What
And
is it the
you-
bard said? We're all just playing our parts, fretting and strutting upon the stage.
And you knew, did you not, Wisteria? You knew. You tried to tell yourself you had gotten away, but you knew deep down it was only a matter of time. So why come here? Why cast that pall upon all these others?
Home field advantage. I'm still optimistic. I believe we can get through it.
It is acceptable. And now, to answer your own question. Currently, this building belongs to Thaddeus, the child of Set, but ownership is a nebulous word, and tonight ownership changes hands for better or for worse. Do you understand? And from this point onwards, this place becomes not a haven of vampires, but a haven of death and destruction and chaos. Do you understand?
Don't worry. I had no plans of sticking around here. I understand.
The brazen head smiles, and then silently, it slides slowly back into the wall, the stonework returning to how it once was. The marks on the stone do not move, and with a great rattling sound, the stone door in front of you slides open to admit you. On the other side is a surprisingly well-lit room, a stark contrast to the dark, dank tunnels you've been making your way through. You step through the small archway, and as soon as you're on the other side, the wall slides shut behind you, and you now stand in what must be the church's vestry. It's a wide open room, a basement room, the same stone walls as the tunnel before, but now there are ornate sconces flooding the room with a dim orange light. Antique wooden tables scattered throughout the room, topped with ancient-looking tomes, scrolls of paper, and on one of them, cardboard boxes filled with recently printed leaflets, branded with the church's name and logo. There are several bunk beds slid up against one of the walls, and beyond them, a single wooden door that seems to lead further into Thaddeus's secret domain.
The flashlight's turning off as we are in light again. And Wisteria will go invisible once more.
Does she
And
get hungry?
hungrier this time. Yes, she does.
The beast rumbles. So close, the blood of the father. I can smell it, I can sense it.
Get that out of your head. I do not want him in here with us. Quite proud enough of me.
Pierce hefts the axe. He looks around, takes in the sight of all the old tomes and rolled up scrolls. He fishes one of the church's pamphlets out of a cardboard box, laughs, tosses it over his shoulder. What's all this shit?
A distraction, I expect. It will be quiet from here on out.
And speaking of, what was that head talking about? You being the catalyst and all this shit about chaos coming to the city.
Wisteria tells part of the truth. I expect this to be the casus belli for Black to make his move. It'll probably be war from here on out with the Camarilla.
He turns to Barry, glaring, narrowing his eyes. And what about you, Copper? You here just to help Wisteria? Or is there something more to it?
Pierce, if you want this job done, I recommend you not talking to me for the rest of it.
Easily done, provided you keep your mind on the job and nothing else. This ain't your chance to make a power play. You're here for one reason, and that's to do the Baron a favour. Got it?
Yeah, I'm here for one reason.
He gestures once more at the tables. What's all this shit? Pamphlets, books, scrolls? That head mentioned something about a sacred knowledge. Don't suppose that'd be this, then? Desiree creeps forward. She lifts one of the scrolls off the table, peers down at it, and she says, "These are covered in arcane runes. This must have belonged to the Hermetic Order. Not necessarily applicable to blood magic, but with some of these old treatises, we could work some very wonderful things indeed. Thaddeus must be trying to decode it all, must be trying to make sense of it, but, well, he's not a Tremere," she says with a laugh. "He doesn't know what he's looking for, does he?" "Right."
Wisteria will cast her eye over it, then shrug.
I know, I'm definitely interested in reading those.
Yeah.
You could gather it for later, she whispers.
Gather she will!
Pierce. Go ahead.
And while they do that, Wisteria will check the door and make sure there's no traps, alarms, or people waiting on the other side.
Go ahead, make me a dexterity or composure plus stealth check, please, and add your obfuscate as extra dice.
Do still have dexterity boosted. And this is a break-in. And obfuscate is extra dice. I need more dice. Alright.
Yeah, so this is the last area before the church proper, isn't it?
Seems to be. Technically, this room's part of the church, but this is just the room where they sleep and store all their materials. It seems.
So, world's greatest thief. 8 successes.
8 successes. You're vaguely aware of the sound of Avelina and Desiree shoveling books and scrolls into their bags while Pierce watches. Just so long as none of that forbidden knowledge comes back to bite the Baron in the arse, because I'm sure none of it's as effective as a swift blade to the face. You catch my drift? But
Well, hopefully we can use it to take advantage of some other situations as well.
Felina, go ahead and make me a charisma persuade check, please.
Four successes.
Do what you want, says Pierce. So long as you tell the Baron, I don't mind. He glances once more at Barry. Copper's got to collect all the evidence, doesn't he? Good little Copper by the book.
What I say about talking to me, Pierce?
Wisteria, you've crept on. Approach the door, and the door itself is mundane. There are not only no traps, but it's unlocked. You carefully turn the doorknob, push it open, and sneak into the room on the other side. It's another vestry, much the same as the one you were already in, though this one is much smaller, much more cramped. There are no bunk beds. There's only a single round table, and seated around it, 3 figures in the middle of a card game. 2 of them have enough colour in their skin that you can tell they're mortal. Possibly Gould, but the third one, a petite woman wearing long white robes with an pale aquiline face. It's obvious that she's kindred, and the telltale golden unk around her neck tells you exactly what clan she belongs to.
My phone is silenced because I'm not an amateur. I'm invisible. I'll quietly text back what I've found and tell them I'll neutralize the furthest most ghoul when you get here. Let's try to do this quietly.
Boop.
Smiley face to Barry.
Barry's phone vibrates. The message is on the screen. 2 ghouls, 1 kindred. I'll take care of the furthest one. Smiley face. Finally, says Pierce, bringing his axe to bear. Finally, something fun. How are we gonna do this? Come on, copper. You know how to call the shots.
What's the interior like again?
So it's just a small square room, and the only furniture that Wisteria can see is a table, and all 3 of them are just seated around the table. According to Desiree, none of them have their back to the door, but none of them are directly facing it either.
Robert, I want you to obfuscate. Pick off someone that Wisteria can handle. The rest of us, we'll go in, guns blazing, and we'll take down that kindred. It should provide enough surprise to let Wisteria and Robert disable their opponents.
Disable, says Pierce. I hope by that you mean kill them, because we ain't leaving any loose ends, copper.
They could have some information for us. We don't want to ruin that possibility. You of all people should know that, Pierce.
Pierce just nods as he walks up to the door, hefting his axe. We gonna do this thing or not?
Rose is going to get into position. Everyone okay with that?
Gil nods, flexing his fists. Avelina, you've still got your feral weapons active, I presume, so you just heft your scythe up in the air in front of you, ready for action. Linala takes this moment to flit down from the air and perch once more on your shoulder and nuzzle her head against your neck. Robert?
Give her a little pat, a little scratch.
And like a cat, she sort of throws her head back so you can scratch right under her neck, chittering surprisingly loudly for such a small creature. You really did do a number on those vocal cords with your vicissitude.
Whoops.
Robert's going to go ahead and rouse for Unseen Passage.
Does he get hungrier?
No.
Voice in your head whispers, yeah, fuck 'em, fuck the dogs, fuck 'em! As you feel that familiar feeling, pulling the darkness around yourself like a cloak, and you fade away. Go ahead and make me a composure or dexterity plus stealth check, please, and add your obfuscate as extra dice.
Yeah. And this would be a new scene, wouldn't it?
It would be a new scene, yes.
Yeah. Just like that. Next up, obfuscate.
You hear someone in the other room shout, "Read it and weep, 4 of a kind!" How well do we do?
That is going to be a messy 9.
Messy 9.
Yeah.
So here's what happens, unless you'd like to spend willpower to turn that messy into a normal success.
I think I want to play out the messy, if you don't mind me messing with your idea a little bit.
Go right ahead. What does Robert do? You feel the beast roar to life, but it's not your normal beast, it's Savoy. And he says, "Alright, you and I, we're friends for now, and no one fucking messes with us. Let's show them how it's done."
So going off of... He had intended to follow Barry's suggestion of just effectively trying to just knock out the ghoul. But I think, instead, no, now he's going to sneak up, and then the knife comes out, and he's just effectively just going to try and one-shot just drop the guy with a quick slash to the throat from behind.
Yeah. You all see the door creep open slightly as Robert, invisible, sneaks inside. And the rest of you are waiting for Robert to get into place and give you the signal, but it never comes because suddenly Robert materializes, visible again, his eyes red with hunger and anger, and it's not his face. Whatever's behind those eyes is not him. He opens his mouth and he shouts, "Fuck you, dog!" as he throws himself onto the ghoul, and the knife comes out and stab, 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 stab. It's less taking him out in one go and more a furious prison shiving.
So Wisteria's going to lose a few seconds just staring, and then she's going to remember, oh right, and her eyes will fade in Cheshire Cat style and try to catch the other ghoul with a serpentine gaze.
The ghoul opens his mouth, he screams, he doesn't even get a word out as Robert continues to stab and stab and stab, and that was 9 successes you got right, Robert.
Good lord.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It happens...
I was rolling with a dice pool of 11.
Very good at this. It happens in a matter of seconds, but Robert stabs with such supernatural force that after the 5th or 6th go, there's nothing left of the ghoul's face. His chest is a gaping cavity, and at this, Robert just opens his mouth, throws his head back, and a stream of hundreds of ants are regurgitated like black bile all over the broken body. The vampire immediately springs to her feet, as does the other ghoul, just in time for Wisteria to materialize in front of him. Her eyes flash with the power of Set, and go ahead and roll your Eyes of the Serpent, please, Wisteria.
Combining all, because that's what you do, and holy... I mean, it's 4 successes. Why nothing?
4 successes to his 3 successes. The ghoul's hand flashes to his side to withdraw a stake that's hidden in a holster there, but he never gets it out. He meets your eyes, Wisteria. You see him struggle to move, but he can't. What the fuck? He whispers. And then you see the vampire take stock of the situation. She breathes. sighed, bored. And I kept saying, dear Thaddeus, that you should make sure that entrance is more heavily fortified than how the Order left it. No matter. Barry, Evelina, you guys charge into the room in the midst of all this, and what do you do? You see one ghoul on the ground, bleeding out furiously, as Robert and all of Robert's constituents make short work of him. The other ghoul frozen, rooted to the spot, staring into Wisteria's eyes, leaving only the vampire who even now twists her hands into long, sharp talons and begins to close the distance towards Wisteria.
I'm going after her.
You're going after her, and what about you, Barry?
Yeah, I'll just provide support and pull my gun out.
Pull your gun out. All right. Go ahead, Evelina. Make me a strength brawl check, and Barry, make me a composure plus firearms check.
Three success, one crit.
3 success, 1 crit. Nice. And how about you, Barry?
Just 2 successes.
2 successes. So this vampire, she can't dodge and attack at the same time. She's going to have to split her dice pool. Seeing Evelina rushing towards her, she whirls around, raises her own talon-like claw, ready to defend. And how many successes was that, Evelina? 4?
3 total.
3 total? That will be 5 successes from the vampire as you swing your talon at her. But she's too fast, much faster, much more experienced than you. She moves like a blur and her own talon comes up, knocking yours out of the way. And then she swings forwards and buries the tip of her barb into your chest. You feel hot pain as blood gushes forth, and you take 2 points of superficial damage. But this means she can't dodge, and so Barry steps forwards. And how many successes was that, Barry?
Just 2.
2 to her, 0 successes. However, you raise your gun, take careful aim, and fire once, twice. First at her head, second at center mass. The bullets hit her, and she flies backwards from the impact, ripping her talon out of Evelina's body, and she takes 1 point of superficial damage after it's halved. Wisteria, the ghoul is in front of you, his body shaking, trembling as he tries to force it to move, but is unable. What do you do to him?
She steps forward, her jaws opening wide, and says, "Shh. You might live through this." And she bites into his lip, locking his eyes with hers. This will take some time, but she's in no hurry. She trusts them to take care of the kindred.
He moans and moans and makes a feeble attempt to struggle, but within seconds he gives in to the ecstasy, and you pull him away, still not breaking eye contact, letting his blood flow through your body, your sire's blood, and the beast roars. An appetizer, and soon the real thing. What is your hunger currently at, Wisteria?
Only 2.
Only 2. You are in control. You are smooth. You pull him off into the corner and take what you need, and I presume nothing more?
Nothing more.
Still
Never
take
killed.
a bit, though.
Only killed while feeding once.
Pierce unhinges his axe, he charges into the room and takes a flying leap over the table towards the vampire. She gasps as she bats at him with her talon and forces him to change his trajectory at just the last moment to avoid one of her blows. His axe comes down and cleaves the wooden table in two. Robert's over on the other side of the room, still furiously stabbing his knife into the ghoul, shouting, "Fuck! Fuck! Fuck!" And then, Avelina, what would you like to do?
I'm gonna attack her again.
Attack her again. Go ahead, make me a strength plus brawl check. And Barry, what would you like to do?
Just keep my gun trained on her. If she moves, she's getting shot.
Composure plus firearms, please.
Bit better. 4 successes.
4 successes.
5
Avelina?
successes, 2 of them are crits.
Ooh, very, very nice. She's got Avelina coming from the left and Pierce coming from the right. She backs towards the wall, unsure of what to do, and then as she bends her knees and leaps into the air, Barry steps into the room, his gun drawn, bang, bang! His bullets find her center mass. The impact knocks her out of the air, and then Aveline steps forward, sticking her talon into the woman's throat, instantly painting her immaculate white suit deep red. She struggles and squirms, flails her own claw in Avelina's direction, trying to fight back, and then, with one single motion, Pierce steps forward, raises the axe, brings it down, and thunk! The vampire is decapitated. Her skin immediately putrefies and begins to break away, revealing the bones underneath, which quickly crumble to dust.
Fucking damn it, Pierce. What the fuck did I just say?
Relax, we've got one.
He shrugs. Your mate already made short work of this one. And he points at the other ghoul. And Robert, have you finally stopped stabbing the guy?
Yeah, maybe about a second or so after everything's calmed down, and then it's like fully starts to come back to himself.
One more stab, and another, and then Robert's eyes change, and whatever was behind them before is gone, and there's nothing left of the guy at this point. You can't even see his face. There are thousands of ants crawling over it, quickly drinking up all the blood and morsels and specks of flesh that have sprinkled the man's clothing and the floor around him. The trick is to make sure that if you make a mess, you clean up after yourself, says Pierce, as he steps forwards, leans over the utterly mauled body, and then cuts the back of his wrist with one of his sharp, needle-like teeth. A drop of Pierce's blood lands on the man's chest, and then suddenly his entire body loses composure. His clothes, his skin, his bones all begin to crumble apart, and within seconds all that's left is a big black streak of ash on the floor where the body once was.
That's a cool trick.
Came in very handy after I woke up from torpor 30-odd years ago. Times are different. Can't just feed and leave it lying around anymore. Know what I mean? Gotta be more careful.
I could have turned it into a chair.
And yet, there would have still been a chair, wouldn't there?
Well, gunshots means we'll have to hurry. Wisteria looks at the zoned-out ghoul. Gil, hold him.
Gil nods, rushes forwards. You go on, meet your sire. You think this bloke's gonna have any info for us?
He might.
I'll get him out of here then.
I came here looking for keys. He might have them. We need to move.
I'll get this bloke out of here. You go in, do what you need to do. Meet up on the other side, eh?
Sounds good.
Gil grabs the man and doesn't lift him up and carry him, but he guides him towards the room, towards the entrance of the room, the way one would guide a child. The ghoul still seemingly out of it, still unable to move under his own power. Gil just drags him away into the darkness.
Wisteria will lift the phones from the corpses as well, and the piles of ash as well. And then on we go.
The ghouls themselves didn't have phones. The vampire had a phone, but...
That's the one then.
Quick search through it reveals nothing of note. It's a burner phone, apparently used to contact her master and nothing else. So far hasn't been used at all.
Never mind then. On we go.
Before you press on, Pierce looks over his shoulder at Barry. Nice shooting, copper. I'll give credit when it's due.
Barry's not doing well. He's I think the coterie will know when they look at him. He's really struggling being in the presence of Pierce.
Which is appropriate. I'm about to offer you a free premonition. Would you like to take it?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, give it to me.
Go ahead, roll a rouse check, see if you get hungrier, but you won't need to roll for the premonition.
Oh, I do get hungry.
The beast in the back of your mind growls one word. Pierce. And then you're in a different time, a different place. Standing in the lounge room of an ordinary family suburban home. There's a big, bulky CRT television, and the furniture and the wallpaper are in that gaudy cream colour that was popular in the early 90s. Yellow police tape covers the windows and the doors leading out of the room, and right there in the centre of the room, marked by little cards that indicate it is a crime scene, is a single black ash-like smear. Then there's a jolt, and you're back in the vestry of the church, back staring at Pierce and that pasty black smear on the stone floor. "What's the matter, copper?" says Pierce.
I recognise that room.
You can make me an intelligence and, let's say, intelligence investigation if you like. Try to snatch some meaning out of that premonition before it entirely fades.
I'm gonna spend a willpower.
Go ahead.
4 successes.
Clicks instantaneously. You don't even need the premonition. You feel it fading from your mind, and then the real, actual memory takes its place, strong and firm and vibrant as if it only happened yesterday. It's June 1991. It's the first murder, the first disappearance, the first in what would become a string of cases. The first victim of the Buckley bunyip. And all you could ever find was those black, ash-like smears. There were never any bodies, always signs of a struggle, but you could never find the victims themselves. It's like they simply vanished off the face of the earth.
It was
Like, me what, copper? He gestures down at the ashy smear. Like what you see, do you, copper? Oh, I could probably teach you how to do it for a price.
Men, we have a task. If you'd like to swing your dicks around, you can do it after we're off mission, please.
Indeed we do, says Pierce. So perhaps, Copper, you follow your own advice and don't talk.
I think all that ringing internally from Barry just alleviates. He's weirdly probably the happiest he's been since his embrace.
And yet, nobody would see that. They would just see Barry, neutral, not giving away any of his cards as he simply nods. All right, then. But inside, Barry, in the back of your head, your beast is dancing. Finally! There's a single door, another wooden door identical to the last on the opposite side of the room. This one, however, has a golden serpent inlaid on the surface, indicating it to be the doorway to Thaddeus's sanctum.
Well, we'll go ahead and check it for traps, of course. And listeners and all that other good stuff.
Go ahead, Wisteria, make me a wits or intelligence plus investigation check. Or larceny, up to you.
Oh, definitely larceny. 2 successes.
2 successes. There's a very crude trap, and you find yourself sneering at how crude it is. There is no subtlety whatsoever. There's a mechanism just above the doorknob that, should you activate it by grasping it in your hand, causes the golden serpent's head to spring open and a little stake to shoot out. You even activate it to show it off to the others, and as the snake opens its mouth, the stake shoots like a dart, embedding itself in the opposite wall.
What a dramatic pitch.
But that's all there is.
Doesn't look like it reloads. Are we ready for the big confrontation?
I'll stay in the other room then, says Desiree. Make sure all those things are gathered up, so that we can get out of here and...
I expected nothing less. You've done a fine job. Thank you very much.
And, if you would like help decoding any of those things, well, I won't even charge a boon. You'll have... Go ahead.
I take you up on that.
You'll have plenty of time later to read your little books, Tremere, says Pierce. Go and stand guard in the other room.
Yes, go do the thing you said you'd do anyway. Make him feel better, important. And Wisteria opens the door.
The door creaks open, and you're instantly engulfed in a bright orange light.
Ah!
Bright enough that it does in fact trigger your Bane. Your Bane severity is 2 currently, I believe.
Yep.
Your mouth opens, you hear yourself hiss like a serpent as you raise your hands to block out the bright fluorescent light, this false sunlight. And then you step beyond the threshold. The rest of the coterie follows soon behind, save for Evelina. Evelina, you're about to follow the rest of the coterie through the doorway when suddenly you stop. It's as if your body hijacks your control of it away from you, and it refuses to go any further. A voice whispers in the back of your mind, the voice of the beast. But we wouldn't want to be impolite, would we? It is someone else's domain, after all.
She just groans.
You have 2 choices here, Evelina. You can stay outside of Thaddeus's domain and see how you can assist the coterie from out here, or you can spend willpower equal to your Bane severity, which is 2, so 2 willpower, to force yourself over that threshold, knowing that you weren't invited.
I'm just gonna yell at guys, do you need me? You be good.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Spend the willpower.
2 willpower spent. You grit your teeth, push the beast's protestations to the back of your mind, and step over the threshold, and you feel your stomach lurch. You feel nausea building up inside, and then it's gone. It's gone. You're in. You're over the threshold. You weren't invited, and yet here you are.
I'd like to say that she's a little bit stumbly because she doesn't like it.
Yeah, just stumbling forwards. Watch it, Zemise, says Pierce, pushing a hand roughly into your back to push you forwards before you stumble into him. Eyes on the prize.
I had no idea.
Things you have no idea about, Wisteria. Could fill a book. That's why I'm here. Keep going.
Ah, funny. I thought you were here to supply random taunts, threats, and tell us to do things we were doing anyway. You're doing a fine job of that, by the way. Gold sticker. Top of the class.
He grunts, steps past you, and leads you on, down the long, narrow, brightly lit corridor that leads to yet another door. This door, however, is already wide open. Pierce is the first through, and everyone follows behind, and then you are in what must surely be Thaddeus's inner chamber. It measures about 10 meters across. It's almost circular, with a passageway at the opposite end and a flight of stairs leading up to the church's main floor. The chamber is cold, slightly damp as water trickles in from part of the wall, droplets of brackish black sewer canal water eking through the cracks in the stonework. This chamber must be close to the underground canal network or the sewers. At the western end of the chamber is a statue that stands 2 feet high and is carved into the shape of a winged lion, with a key clasped between its front paws. At the opposite side of the chamber is a small wooden altar, upon which rests a number of scrolls, books, and little golden figurines of jackal-headed men and serpents. A bull. And perhaps most interesting of all, several jars of blood. A quick glance of the room doesn't seem to offer any indication that anyone is here with you. It appears for now that you are alone. And yet, you can't help but feel you're being watched.
Is it still ludicrously bright?
Not here, not in the room. Not so much. However, there is enough ambient light spilling in that I will allow you to halve your penalty.
Alright.
Barry's
Good
going to heighten senses now and see if there's anything. See if you can detect anyone's presence.
Go ahead and make me a wits plus either investigate or awareness, and add your auspex, please. Pierce is immediately quiet as well, axe in hand, scanning the room for signs of a threat.
Aveline, do see if there's anything enchanting around. Then she pulls out sunglasses, slips them on, squints at the lion. I don't suppose you're going to talk.
The lion's just a statue. And the key doesn't even appear to be an actual key. It's part of the carving. Some sort of religious iconography, perhaps? You don't recognize it from any of your experience with Setite, dogma, or ideology.
Criticals of 4, correct?
Correct. Criticals are, criticals are basically if you get 2, that's the critical, and it becomes a 4. Yep.
Yep, gotcha. Yep. So that's a 9 altogether. 9 successes.
Ooh, 9 altogether. Barry, you're not sure how you see it. It must be your instinct, that cop's instinct, always alert to a threat. But kneeling in the shadow of the wooden altar with the winged lion astride it is a vampire. Obfuscated. Not invisible, but sitting unnaturally still in the shadow, waiting, watching to see what you will do. He must be Wisteria's sire. No one else fits the bill.
I'll just make a look at Wisteria.
She squints back. Yes?
I nod over to the statue.
Wisteria moves closer.
And looking at everyone. It's like silently, just trying to silently communicate to everyone to back us up.
What does Robert do?
I think Robert's probably been doing a similar thing of like just sort of trying to scan the room. He's a bit uneasy of like, walking into this seemingly empty room that's really well lit.
So Robert, I'd like you to go ahead and make me a wits awareness or investigate check. Meanwhile, Avelina has made her way to the table. She's scanning the lion statue, running her finger across its mane, and then kneels down, hefts one of the jars of blood off the table and sniffs it. This one's kindred, she says, lowering the jar. She picks up another one, sniffs it. This one isn't, but it isn't mortal either, and she picks up a third. Same with this one, but a different scent entirely. As for the statue, she says, Ahriman, Zoroastrian religious icon. He is the source of all human disappointment and suffering. How very gauche.
Persian. That's right. Should have recognized it from the Turan job. Wisteria runs her fingers along the statue, stops at the key.
Usually depicted with a key in his paws, though, she says.
Does the key slide?
It doesn't. It appears to be made of whatever material the rest of the statue is made out of. Either it means something, or there is some trick. Meanwhile, Robert, how did you go?
4 successes.
4 successes. The rest of the room... So the key is clasped in the lion's front paws. It's like standing on the altar, and it's clasping the key in its front paws. So essentially standing on the key. Robert, your brief search of the room, and you stop in a couple of places, deposit some ants into little gaps and grooves. You don't add anything to what Avelina and Wisteria have already found, but when you see one of your ants come scurrying fearfully back out through one of the cracks in the stone wall, it becomes clear to you that you're not actually in the church. Rather, Thaddeus's sanctum is underneath the church. It's more a part of the canal network than the church itself. The church, on the surface perhaps, is just a facade. Pressing your ear to the walls, Robert, you can hear it. You hear the sound of running water. Right on the other side of these walls are sewer tunnels.
The key is sticking out a bit from the bars, yes.
It is. But it doesn't appear to be loose.
Well, we'll start looking for a keyhole.
There is a book on the altar next to the jars of blood and the scrolls that has a golden lock on the front of the tome.
We'll pick it up and try to use the key to unlock it by bringing the book to it.
Very clever. Heft the heavy tome off the altar, bring it to the statue of Ahriman and press it up against the lion's paws. Hear something click, and then the book falls open. This one isn't like the ones outside. There's nothing obviously magical about this one. Instead, it is filled with page after page of Sedite doctrine, sermons, observations, ruminations on the nature of Set and the great serpent Apep, and the nature of chaos and its role in the lives of men, and how chaos can pave the way to freedom, but it can also pave the way to despair.
If I never needs assistance falling asleep some morning, she'll slip it into her pack regardless.
Feeling you're being watched is stronger now, and Barry, Wisteria's sire, still kneels there in the shadow of the altar and the lion. Wisteria only centimeters from him now, and yet he still doesn't make any move to grab her or anything else.
Then she'll move over to look at the Ashabti, the statues on the table.
You recognize most of them instantaneously. The jaguar-headed man is, of course, Set. The serpents represent Apep. The statues themselves don't appear to have any special significance, though they do appear to be made of real gold, or at the very least edged with real gold.
Wisteria nods, moves over to the door and shuts it.
And as soon as she shuts it, the last of the orange light dies out. And you feel the beast settle in your head as your bane subsides.
And she'll flick on the flashlight, click it over to lantern mode.
And it's as soon as that last bit of light is flushed out of the room, as she clicks on the flashlight, the shadow at the foot of the altar, the foot of Ahriman, begins to move. And just as you expected him to, Thaddeus reveals himself. He rises and smiles as he meets his eyes with your own. Wisteria, I would like you to please go ahead and roll a wits plus composure for me.
Is this to resist entrancement?
To resist something.
May I meet it with entrancement instead?
Sure. He'll roll his charisma plus presence, and you can roll your own.
Yep. 2, 3. We'll go ahead and boost. Not get hungrier.
How many successes did you get?
Oh. This is probably pretty important. So I'm going to spend a willpower to re-roll the 3 that didn't need successes. And there's the crit.
There's the crit. The standard
6,
crit.
8, 10 successes.
10 successes. He's also going to spend a willpower. And he gets 9 successes. You feel something pass between you. You feel for just a moment a pang of familiarity. You feel that you know this man, and you feel for a split second the curiosity to talk to him, to know him, to not instantly strike him down, and then it passes as you match his gaze with your own, and he smiles, a warm smile back.
And
His
Wisteria,
blonde hair suddenly vibrant, illuminated as if basking in your glow. And what do you do?
she opens her arms and offers an embrace.
Thaddeus steps forwards. He holds out his arms and embraces you, pulling you towards him, tightly holding you. He whispers in your ear, "The prodigal daughter returns, as I knew she would."
You were so afraid. Go on.
And now the two of us together, we can strike back.
You were so afraid for so long, weren't you? When you found out what you'd turned into an undead. You just thought I was somebody off the streets, didn't you? Some rich bitch. You could loot on the way out for a sacrifice. Is that about some of it?
If he planned to attack you, if he planned to lie in ambush and strike you when the moment was right, he's not doing that now. It is with the warmth of a father peering down at his daughter that he smiles and he says, "And yet you proved that you are so much more. You are here before me."
Dear Thaddeus.
You have been
You have a
through
lot.
so much. 30
You have.
years. You escaped from the Inquisition and you came back.
You were so afraid of me. Listen, Black's account numbers, I'm going to need those. That's what we need for the next step. Do you have them written down somewhere? The ones that he's using to fund the church.
Is that how it is to be? He says, you and I, prodigal daughter, reunited with the father against the world?
Something like that. But we need to get moving now. The numbers, do you have them?
So you open my diary. It's in there. I
Excellent.
wanted to see what you would do, see if you would destroy it, or if curiosity would take hold and you would wish to see a glimpse into what it means to be me. And I see that you have seen, that you have returned, and now...
Now, she says, turning slightly in his grip as she tightens hers, turning his back toward Barry and Pierce and the others. Yes, we have much to do. But, I hate to tell you this. It's the royal we that I've been talking about. And she winks at the others.
He's still in trance, and he's still smiling that warm smile, and it doesn't quite occur to him what you mean until at the very least Pierce steps forwards, hefts his axe, and at this point he squirms. No! Fowlerpep, the serpent of chaos, grows stronger in this domain. It must be purged. It must be purged just as set. Reunited Upper Egypt, peace must return to Buckley, and then...
Barry's gonna do something really stupid. Before Pierce is going to strike, he's going to take the axe from him and then strike Thaddeus.
Gonna take Pierce's axe.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Pierce raises his axe, and within seconds he'll bring it down as Thaddeus buries his face in his hands and begins to weep. With my faithful followers beside me and the blessing of my forefathers, we could have destroyed the Camarilla. We could have destroyed the Anarchs. As Buckley moves ever closer to war, as neighbors turn on one another.
Fucking axe.
Go ahead, roll me a strength brawl check as Barry steps forwards and his hands clamp down on the handle of the axe, stopping it when the blade is only an inch from Thaddeus.
Can I just add my lethal body to this? Or?
I will allow you to add an extra dot for your protean. An extra dice for your protean.
Ooh. 5 successes.
5 successes. Pierce is going to spend some willpower.
Yeah, what happens when you spend all your willpower?
Spend all your willpower, you are impaired, and any mental or social rolls are done with a penalty.
Okay.
Usually.
Do we heal our willpower before the last session?
You do. You got back equal to whatever is your highest between your resolve or composure.
Great. I'll spend my willpower too.
For a few moments, there's a silent struggle in the room as Thaddeus's proselytizing breaks down into sobs and weeps. How could you, my daughter? We could have had it all.
I was never your daughter, Thaddeus.
And Set would have rewarded you. Would have rewarded us.
There's that us again. Thaddeus, you're nothing to me. You never were. You're just a random fool who got lucky on the best night of his life, didn't realize what he had, and caught me on the worst night of mine. I've already got a better plan worked out, one that doesn't involve you. She's making little, wiggling hand motions at the others, please come kill this fool. While she's stalling him, we'll talk. Yeah, behind his back.
How much did Pierce roll?
How'd you go?
So with my willpower, I rolled a 7.
So Pierce is going to spend a willpower, and he rolls 6 successes.
What? Okay.
It's rather disappointing, you think, Wisteria. After all this time, your sire is nothing more than a blubbering mess at your feet. Incoherently babbling and mumbling and crying about Set and Pep and chaos and...
I didn't need any of this vampire bullshit to be awesome.
And then you hear Pierce roar as Barry lifts the axe from his hands and raises it.
But I tell you, don't worry. I've decided to bury the hatchet.
And then Barry's going to
bury. Now let's bury the hatchet instead.
As he feels the axe wrench from his hand, Pierce doesn't strike back. He doesn't lash out. Instead, he smiles at you, Barry, revealing every one of his sharp teeth, and he purrs. Interesting. The copper does like to go off book. The copper does have a backbone. You raise the axe and you're about to bring it down, and it is a centimeter from Thaddeus, Barry, when suddenly a loud crash rings out from somewhere above, a peal of gunfire, explosions, and then screaming bloody murder. A vampire clad in the vestments of the Setites staggers down the staircase at the back of the room, flames licking at his robes, boiling his skin. He charges down the stairs, screaming, and when he reaches them, he falls to the ground, ceases to move, and his body crumbles away. And in that momentary distraction, Barry, before you're able to finish off Thaddeus, he looks up at you, opens his mouth to speak, raises his hand, perhaps to defend himself, when there's another loud gunshot and thunk, the pneumatic stake slides through his chest, shot through his back. He gasps and falls to the ground as, from the stairs at the back of the room, 3 men clad in black tactical gear, wearing night vision goggles, charge down. 2 blank bodies in sub-basement, 4 more. Engaging. Calling for backup. Over. Engage.
Night vision goggles? Perfect. Wisteria reaches into her kit, pulls out the flashbang, pops it, and starts running. Let's leave!
It is at this point that actually, Wisteria, for all the listeners, would you like to reveal what one of your flaws is?
Oh, yes. That would be the known blank body flaw. Hunted by the Second Inquisition.
And that is why they are here now. They've spent a lot of time carefully combing over every movement Wisteria has ever made. And they've waited for this moment when she's linked up with her own sire to spring their trap. Bang! The flashbang goes off. The room is filled with intense, searing, bright light.
And oh, what it'll do to people wearing night goggles.
You hear one of the Inquisitors scream, his word buried in static. Back up, retreat!
Let's
and then
go!
What do you do? Wisteria, you're turning, you're running, I guess?
Pretty much.
What's everyone else
Back down the way
doing?
she came.
Back down the way she came.
Following.
Turning. Avelina's turning, running.
Somebody bring Thaddeus.
I'll finish the job while everyone's blinded.
That's good too.
And Robert, how about you?
So have they come down a different doorway, have they? Not the way we came in?
Yeah, they've come the opposite side of the room, the staircase that leads up. The way you would have come if you'd gone through the church and not through the canals.
Yeah, I guess just with the flashbang, unseen passage and runs.
Yeah, go ahead, activate your unseen passage.
That's another success. What the hell? So I don't get hungrier again.
Nice.
Fuck out. Get the fuck out! Whispers the voice in your head. Run! And I would like Wisteria, Avelina, and Robert to go ahead and make Dex athletics checks for me. And Robert, you may add an extra dice to yours as you're currently obfuscated. These Inquisitors still have a means of finding you, but you have a moment where they can't, so you should take advantage of it.
May I add my danger sense?
You may. Go ahead and
I'll also boost and get hungrier, but it's worth it.
I don't suppose my Ghost in the Machine plays into this at all.
Oh, you've got Ghost in the Machine? Sure, no need to roll anything to get away then.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if, does their stuff get around that? Or does my Ghost in the Machine get around their machinery?
I'm there! Shouts one of the Inquisitors.
Willpower time. There we are. 5 successes.
The gargoyle's escaping! Shouts one of the Inquisitors, and the guy next to him raises some kind of handheld camera or oscilloscope in Robert's direction just as he blinks out of existence. Fuck! The thing's scrambled! He shouts. And then you all turn and run. Wisteria, Barry, Avelina, how did you do on your Dex athletics checks?
Okay.
Actually, Barry, I'll get to you in a moment. You're going to do something else.
Cool.
Wisteria and Avelina, how'd you go?
5 successes.
2 with willpower.
2 with willpower. So 7 altogether. The rest of the coterie turns and runs, leaving Barry and Pierce behind. Pierce stares at you, Barry, holding the axe. He gestures towards the now staked vampire on the floor, and he says, "Come on then, copper."
What did you have to do with my embrace?
He glances over his shoulder where the three Inquisitors are closing in. The flashbang's vibrant light will linger for only a few more seconds. They close in on you, raising their assault rifles, static and feedback humming through their radios. "Is this really the time, copper?"
Fuck. I've got the axe. Thaddeus is staked on the floor. There's only 3 of them, right?
3, but there's more peals of gunfire upstairs somewhere. You're almost certain there's more of them in the building, but right now here in the basement, it's just these 3 guys.
Yeah. Alright. Cool. Yeah, fuck it. Barry's just gonna grab Thaddeus, and he's just gonna look Pierce in the eyes and say, "Your nights are numbered, Bunyip," and run out.
With the axe still in hand.
Yeah, with the axe still in hand. Fuck yeah.
Axe in one hand, and Thaddeus's limp, stiff staked form in the other. You're dragging him towards the room. Pierce just nods, winks, and says, "Suit yourself, copper." And then he sets off at a sprint, heading through the doorway after the others, leaving you to drag Thaddeus alone. The last of the flashbang clears. The 3 Inquisitors raise their guns. Blank body, 6 o'clock, engage! And gunfire rings out. What are you doing, Barry?
I'm just gonna heave Thaddeus onto my shoulder and just run out.
So do you particularly care if Thaddeus gets caught in the crossfire? Do you want him alive?
Not particularly, no.
He's a shield for you.
Go ahead, Barry, and roll me a Dex plus Athletics check, and you may add an extra dice if you're going to use Thaddeus as a human shield.
Three successes.
3 successes. I'm going to roll for the first Inquisitor. That will be 5 successes on the first. You feel bullets slamming into Thaddeus's body. His body is pressed into your shoulder, weighing you down, but you drag it onwards. And then suddenly you hear a whoosh as Thaddeus's body bursts into flame. One of the dragon's breath rounds tears through his flesh and turns him into a fireball. Fuck, you spit as you toss him aside, turn and run for the door as the second 2 Inquisitors step up, raise their guns, and prepare to fire. The first one gets 2 successes. You duck and feel the bullet graze the back of your head, taking 1 point of superficial damage. The second gets 6 successes. You're just at the doorway, Barry. You turn your back and begin to sprint, and then there's another peal of gunfire, and suddenly your back is in searing pain as you take 4 points of aggravated damage. Tiny embers, cinders of fire burn at your clothing and melt your skin straight off the bone. Target hit! Shouts the Inquisitor. Move in! Everyone else is scrambled out into the hallway. You hear the gunfire. You hear Barry wince in pain. What is everyone else doing? Still running?
I'm going to basically wait at one of the doors to as soon as Barry's through, close and break the lock.
Robert, Evelina, what are you guys doing?
I will also be using the Cloak of Shadows to do this. Ghost in the Machine, so I'm invisible.
Yep. A Ghost in the Machine doesn't cost anything to activate.
Sure
it just
doesn't.
sort of applies to other obfuscate powers. So what are you doing, Robert? Waiting on the opposite side of the door?
So was this tunnel like one of the ones that would have been under the waterways or the sewerways sort of thing, or?
Well, this tunnel's the one you came through. So if you head back the way you came, you'll eventually get out into the sewers. But you also know that the sewers are right on the other side of these walls. And if you were to take the walls down, you might be able to break into the sewer network at large.
Just the basically Robert's trying to think whether or not he wants to let Gil know that to maybe either punch a hole through the wall so we can go, or at the very least try and trick them into thinking we have.
Not a bad idea.
Gil's staring from the end of the corridor, look of genuine concern on his face, and he's shouting, "Come on, hurry, this way!"
Yeah, I think as he passes Gil, he'll just Yep. Gil, punch a hole through the wall into the sewers. Hopefully it'll throw some of them off.
Gil understands immediately. He clenches his fist, steps back, and prepares to use his wrecking ball to bash through the stone wall. Meanwhile, Wisteria, you slide yourself right into the gap just beyond the door and wait for Barry to charge through, and sure enough, less than a second later, Barry stumbles through the door. He rips his jacket off and throws it to the ground, embers of flame still eating at it. And Barry, I will need you to go ahead and make me a resolve plus composure plus a third of your humanity roll for me, just to see if you immediately succumb to frenzy the moment you clear the door.
Okay.
Well, he does that. Wisteria slams the door, uses her lockpick gun device to pretty much the lock so that it can't be opened easily.
How many dots in larceny do you have, Wisteria?
That would be 3.
3, easy done, no need to roll. As soon as Barry's through the door, you leap forwards, grab it and slam it shut, jam your device into the lock, and there's a click just as bang, 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 the Inquisitor's ram at the other side of it. Door's locked, battering ram, down here, now, back up, now!
So a third of my humanity?
Third of your humanity rounded down, plus
so
resolve.
So if you get like a 6, that's 2 dice.
Okay. I can't do math good. I've got 7, so...
Don't worry, I also can't do math good.
We all muddle. It's fine.
So a third of your humanity rounded down at 7 would be 2.
Yeah, cool. Bending the willpower. 5 successes.
5 successes. You crush your burning jacket underfoot and wince and push through the pain, sprinting after Evelina and the others. As soon as the door is shut, Wisteria, what do you do?
Run like a monkey.
This way! Shouts Gil, and there's a massive crash. The whole tunnel shakes as Gil doesn't just punch the wall, seems to use his entire body as a battering ram, sprinting at the wall and flinging himself torso first at it. It's like a bowling ball hitting several pins. The bricks in the wall just scatter, making a hole more than wide enough for the whole coterie to push through.
Gil, you're brilliant. What a beautiful idea.
I know, Dahl, but save it for next time, eh? He shouts as he darts through the hole and brackish black water begins to seep through into the tunnel.
Up we go.
Pierce is next, and then Avelina, then Wisteria, and Robert. Now you're in the sewer network. Where next?
Right. Back towards the river, they were not bound to find an outspill pipe.
Use the bat.
You want?
Use the bat, yes! Brilliant.
Linala
This is way
spreads
out.
her wings, begins to shriek. Ee! Ee! Go ahead, Avelina, make me a charisma plus animalism roll.
Well, the bat is scouting. Wisteria will tie a trip wire across the hole they went through. It does nothing.
2 success.
2 successes. The cries of the bat get weaker and weaker, indicating it's getting further away, and you're not entirely sure it's found the way out, but it's found a way to get away from here. And with 2 successes, that'll have to be good enough, Avelina. Good enough for you?
Mm-hmm.
This way, shouts Avelina as she begins sloshing through the sewer water, everyone following behind. Somewhere behind you, you hear a loud bang as the Inquisitors finally get through the door. You hear them shouting, barking orders as yet more gunfire peals out from somewhere above, and you're off. I'd like everyone who's making a break for it, everyone who's running, to just give me a straight Dex Athletics check, please.
All right. That would be a messy critical 5. I'll
Hey.
lean into it. It's been a good night.
2 successes.
And there is also that ghoul in Gil's arms.
Yeah. He's got the ghoul unconscious now. Gil must have just smashed a fist into his head to shut him up at some point. Slung over his shoulder, and his hands trail limply along the surface of the water. And Wisteria, you're following closely behind Avelina as she leads the coterie ahead, everyone sprinting as fast as they can, water splashing and sloshing everywhere. And that is when the voice in your head whispers in your ear, "But are you going to stand for this, Wisteria, dear? Came all this way, and that encounter with your sire so anticlimactic. I was expecting blood. You were expecting blood. And here we are fleeing into the night."
It would be a shame to leave without taunting them. And Wisteria will rouse her blood, not get hungrier, and activate Unseen Passage and head back a bit.
You all see Wisteria fade away into the darkness. You see the water sloshing, rippling, indicating she's heading back down the tunnel. "What? Wisteria, what are you doing?" shouts Gil. "Gotta keep going this way." "Let her go," says Pierce. "If she wants to meet the final death, so be it, but I do not intend to."
Don't worry, I'll catch up. See you later. Echoes throughout the tunnels.
Robert, Barry, what are you guys doing? Are you gonna turn around and follow her back, or keep sprinting?
Yeah, why not? This will be interesting. He's gonna just... So he'll...
You're
Robert's
still
gonna-
obfuscated, as far as I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, so he becomes visible near wherever Gil is, and he just almost like effectively just goes, "Gil, you'll have to carry me out," and then effectively just trust falls into Gil's arms as he's going to activate Subsume the Spirit.
Go ahead, make a rouse check and do your roll. Subsume the spirit will be...
Well, it's free if it's on a familiar, but yeah. I still have to
Right,
make
yes,
another roll.
it is. It is your familiar, so you don't need to spend blood, but I would still like you to go ahead and roll me manipulation plus animalism.
Yeah, I've got the blood for it. I'm gonna instead use that to boost manipulation.
Definitely a good idea.
Hey, it's a fail, so I get hungry at once.
1,000 voices cry out, blood, 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 and they're already leaving your body in droves, coming through folds in your skin, through your eye sockets, down your nostrils, down your ears. Millions of ants all moving as a single unit as Robert's limp body falls into Gil's arms. Gil nods, turns, and continues following Evelina through the sewer tunnels. And then it's just Pierce and Barry left. Pierce frowns. Don't lose sight of the prize now, Copper. Keep running.
I'll take him up on his advice, and I'll, while I'm running, swing at Pierce with the axe.
The cries of the bat ring out somewhere in the distance. Come on, whispers Evelina, gesturing for everyone to follow up, and Pierce runs ahead of you, Barry, perhaps unwisely, and that's when you take your chance. You raise the axe, and Barry, go ahead and make me a strength melee check.
Potence.
And you may add your potent. Well, actually, potence, no, because you're using the axe.
True. Just 2 successes.
2 successes? Want to spend any willpower?
Unfortunately, it's mostly red, so...
You have to make do with 2. You raise the axe, and you swear any other time you would have been fine. But as you begin to bring the axe down, your back sears in pain as those incendiary rounds eat at your flesh. You let out an audible gasp in pain, and that's enough to alert Pierce. He whirls around, sees the axe rising above your head and moving in a blur. He just steps forwards, raises his hand, and thunk! A fist slams into your chest, Barry. The axe goes flying out of your hand, and you take 2 points of superficial damage as he sends you flying, slamming violently into the sewer tunnel wall. But then it's not over yet. Axe back in his hand, Pierce stops. He's no longer smiling, his face a mask of cold neutral professionality. He sloshes forwards, axe hanging limply by his side, and he says, "So that's how it is, Copper. They're working with you, aren't they? Inquisition, all you fucking cops, stick to fucking together!"
You're a traitor, Pierce. You're involved with the plot. You broke the Masquerade.
What if I did?
Then under Baron's orders, you need to be taken down. And I'm mending.
Go ahead. Roll to rouse to see if you get any hungrier.
I don't.
And then, as you mend, what do you do?
Just quickly, how does mend work?
So regardless of whether or not you get hungrier, you may recover superficial damage equal to whatever your blood potency allows, which I believe for you at blood potency 2 is...
2, I think.
2, yeah, 2 superficial damage, though I'm just double checking just to make sure. And blood potency 2 is, 2 superficial damage.
Cool. Great.
And after you mend, you can still do something else. What would you like to do?
I'd like to, I'm going to rush at him, and I'm going to do like a police hold to disable his arm with that holds the axe.
Go ahead, strength brawl. I will allow you to use your lethal body to add 1 extra dice.
Fantastic. Fuck. Okay, that's 6.
6? 6 to his 2 successes. 1 second you're wincing, broken, in pain. The next you're screaming, charging forwards, leaping in a flying tackle. You wrap your hands around Pierce and slam the back of his head up against the tunnel wall. He's going to make a rouse check, and he activates his toughness to reduce all of that to a single point of superficial damage. And then he butts the handle of the axe into your chest, knocking you back off him. And he smiles. You'll need to do better than that, copper. You don't spend 100 years outrunning the law without picking up a few tricks.
What did you do to them?
You will go, meanwhile, to Wisteria, with Robert creeping behind. And Wisteria, you look over your shoulder, and Robert, what does she see? What does she see when she sees you coming up to join her?
Well, she doesn't see Robert. She sees she would probably guess is a large amount of the anther in his body scurrying across the ceiling behind her.
In the beam of the flashlight.
Yeah.
You can no longer see the grey concrete, the stonework. All you can see is black. Endlessly shifting, moving black. Ahead of you, Wisteria and Robert, you can see the lights of the Inquisitor's flashlights, the beams sweeping through the tunnel ahead. They're about 20, 30 feet away.
Their own flashlight shuts off.
In about 10 seconds, they'll clock you.
Ah, she is invisible though.
This way! This way! Shouts
So-
the lead Inquisitor.
And as she went, she threw several of her. She usually carries 2 or 3 noisemakers, set on timers. The idea being that when she's invisible, she can leave them and set them off, or have them go off. Pull attention. She also has the thermite bar, triggered by app, which she's put. And as she's gone back down the side passages, she's scattered them in different directions, with the goal of getting them to split up and chase fruitlessly around, so she can hunt and get one alone for just one precious moment.
There's a shout and a series of bangs as the charges go off. Fire in the hole! Shouts one of them. Scatter! Scatter! Cover! Cover! Cover my back! Cover me! And they split, peeling off, each heading down a separate point of the junction in the tunnel, and then you're both off. Robert, what are you doing? The same thing? Trying to bear down upon one of them as a massive ants?
Just mostly we're still just sending them back just in case she needed the support, but it's like, yeah, if it looks like it, maybe we'll try and split up a bit and like help try and get them to separate a bit more.
Well, you got... How many successes did you get before?
Just 4. So
Just the 4. Yeah. That's more than enough for now. So
yes.
They hear the explosions, and rather than scattering, they each stand in the mouth of one of the tunnels. One of them makes a hand gesture, the other 2 move up to join him, and that's when one of them screams. He nearly drops his gun as he begins brushing his arms and his chest, as hundreds, thousands of ants swarm him, and then the one next to him, and suddenly the 3 Inquisitors are well and truly separated, bashing their guns and guns at the air and brushing against their forearms and their chests, sloshing around in the water. At this point, one of them, the only one who isn't covered in ants, raises his gun, points it straight forwards, and says, "I'm going after the blank body!" And he runs down the tunnel on his own. And Wisteria, you are waiting. What do you do?
And basically, the second he stops to take a look around, Wisteria becomes visible as she pushes the eject button on his the magazine of his gun.
Click!
And smiles at him as she kicks in the yaw and says, "You're my friend now. Come with me. A new life awaits." as she hits him with entrancement.
And roll the entrancement.
Well, I'm getting hungrier. But that's okay. Oh. I'll spend the willpower to not make that a messy critical. I want him to live. And the best I can do is 6 successes.
6 successes. 6 successes to his. Let me check. What are we dealing with? There's no way he can get 6 successes. As you kneel over him, you vaguely register the constant static, the voices peeling through his earphones, and you thank yourself you're using presence, not dominate. You whisper into his ear, and then suddenly he's compliant. He looks at you, nods. Yes. Lead on.
All right. Lose the tracking devices as we go, will you? And she takes off at a jog, leading him that way.
There's a splash, and then another one as first his mask and then his headphones are ripped off. He kneels down
I
to
regain
pick
a
up his...
willpower for stealing an Inquisitor.
You may. He kneels down, picks up his gun, but he doesn't train it on you. Instead, he immediately whirls around, shining the light down the tunnel, covering you as you lead him back the way you came. Back at the hole that leads into the church. 2 Inquisitors left. Go ahead.
She gives him the magazine back.
Silently slides it into his gun and says, "Come on, let's go. There are more blank bodies coming." And then the 2 Inquisitors at the hole stop brushing the ants as all of the ants drop off, recombine into a singular mass and disappear into the shadows as Robert turns and rejoins the others. Barry, Pierce is in front of you, shoulder to shoulder, eye to eye, his face a mask of rage. He raises the axe and he says, "I knew from the moment I saw you, copper, you couldn't be trusted. And now for the good of the Baron, I'll put you in the fucking ground."
Barry's just gonna try to take the axe.
Try to snatch it from him again. Go ahead. Strength brawl, and I'll let you add an extra dot for your potence.
5 successes.
5 successes. He's going to spend a willpower, and he gets 7 successes. As soon as your hand is on the shaft of the axe, he kicks at you furiously with his right leg, hitting you in the shin. And as you stumble, he raises the axe and brings it down on your arm. You take 2 points of superficial damage, and the axe bites through your flesh. When he raises the axe, your arm sticks out at an angle it was not meant to.
Question, how far away is Evelina from...
She's quite a distance away, but at this moment, Evelina, as you're leading Gil and following the bat, you'll realise that Barry seems to have fallen behind.
Can I run back to him?
You sure can. You send Lunala ahead. Gil nods, following the bat. "Good luck, be careful," he says, looking you in the eye. Then you turn around, charge back the way you came, just in time to see Barry gasping for breath up against the wall as Pierce steps forwards, his face a stony mask, and raises the axe over his head.
Pounds him.
Your talon is already here. You rush, he hears the sloshing in the water, he whirls around, sees you leaping for him, your talon held aloft. But is it fast enough to defend himself? Go ahead, roll me a strength plus brawl, please, Avelina.
Question, what happens if I surge again?
If you blood surge, you make a rouse check, and regardless of whether or not you get hungrier, you get to add 2 extra dice to the roll.
It's a good deal.
Okay, I'm gonna surge. I get hungrier anyway, so it's all good.
Spill his blood! Spill his blood! How dare he take what is yours, says the beast. But how do you do on your strength brawl check?
6 successes, 2 of them are crits.
Ooh, 6 successes, 2 of them are crits, which actually makes it 8 successes. 8 successes to his 7 successes. He whirls around, raises the axe to knock you out of the air, but cuts the air uselessly in front of you as you land on him and dig your talon into his chest. He winces, cringes as he forces you off him and stands back, his blood dripping into the water, and he takes 3 points of superficial damage. You too!
You owe me one for this one, eh, mate?
Pierce meets your eyes, Avelina. You too, huh? Traitors! Traitors all around me!
You were the one that was working with the Camarilla, Pierce. You were the one who was working on my embrace. What did you do?
Avelina, I'd like you both to make strength intimidate checks for me.
Spending willpower.
Go ahead.
3 success, 1 of those is a crit.
So...
You are dripping in blood, Barry. You are barely hanging on, but you are standing firm, and the look on your face right now is the same look that many criminals over the decades saw. The look that made them realize their life was over. The jig was up.
They also just rolled a messy critical, so
messy
we're gonna let that
critical.
one fucking ride.
You're gonna let it ride? Would you like to play it out, or would you like me to make something up?
Yeah, I'd be happy to play it out. Sure.
Wisteria, Avelina steps forwards and she holds up her talon right under the man's throat. He doesn't flinch, but he hesitates for a second, and then Barry, your beast, roars, "This is it! Finally! Finally!" And what do you do?
How many? How many did you take as the bunyip?
He smiles, once again revealing those long, razor-sharp teeth, dried bloodstains still on them. He shrugs. Since you got on my trail, 20, 30, more. You don't live as long as I do without getting very fucking hungry. And you, Barry, you, Mr. Copper, you may not see it, but you're one and the same. You're a monster too, in case you didn't realize.
What possessed you to work with the Camarilla?
Didn't know I was working with the Cam, he says. I found out someone had caught up to me. Found out they were on my trail. I went to Kezia. She's the one who's got her fingers in all the pies in the underworld back in the day. Back before I was in torpor. Back when I was somebody, I could have done it myself. But no. I lost a lot. I fought so fucking hard for the Anarchs that I spent 50 fucking years in torpor, and when I woke up everything that was mine had been taken. So I gave her your name. Told her to make you disappear. And what does she do? She thinks you'll send one of her own to embrace you. Build you up to be the Bunyip's worst fucking enemy. But it wasn't I who embraced you, son.
No. But you did help. And as I say that, I'm going to press the stop record button on my phone. And put it back in my pocket. And then smile. For the first time in a really long time. Smile as wide as I can.
So I guess Bluey gets off scot-free, does he? Typical copper.
I'm going to wrest his axe from him and pin him down onto the ground.
Not willing to give up without a fight, but Avelina is there, her talon right at his neck. And Avelina, as soon as you see Barry make a move, what do you do?
Follow in his lead.
I would like Barry and Avelina to both make strength brawl checks.
Five success, one crit.
So I had to spend a willpower to get 2 successes.
2 successes? It's okay. You've got Avelina with you. You meet her gaze, she nods back, and then nonchalantly pushes the talon forwards into his neck. He opens his mouth and gasps, blood gushing forth. He backs up, fumbles for the axe, raises it. But as the red fountain flows forth, he stumbles, and that's all you need. You rush forwards, wrap your arms around his chest and around his torso, and throw him down into the water, ripping his axe out of his hand and tossing it.
No, I'm not tossing it, I'm grabbing it.
You're grabbing it, holding it in your hand.
I'm straddling over top of him. And I raise the axe up. For the crime of breaking the Masquerade! And I slam the axe into him.
For a decapitation, or just to send him into torpor?
No, not enough to send him into torpor. I just want him to I don't want it to hurt.
Feel it. The axe comes down into his torso. You hear the cracking of bones, and he winces, gasps as more and more blood drains from the gash in his neck. Avelina and Barry, what is your hunger currently at? 2. And Avelina? 2. The beast rumbles. Blood is spilled. The scent of his blood fills the tunnel, and it's not appetizing at all. It is the stench of decay, the stench of death. His blood smells like ash and sludge. He looks up at you, his teeth gritted. You!
I raise the axe up again. For the crime of helping the Camarilla! And I bring it down on him again.
More bones smash. Ugh! He winces in pain. His eyes roll into the back of his sockets. His skin begins to pale as he loses more and more blood. He squirms, but he doesn't speak anymore.
I raise it back up. For the crime of giving my name! Once more. And I've got one more in me.
The axe comes down, this time where his heart would be. There's not much bone left to shatter. The blade sinks into his flesh. His body shivers. He lets out a groan, and then his head falls back as his skin begins to turn grey and stony as he falls into torpor.
One more. I, Barry Marwood, Sheriff of Buckley, sentence you to final death and then decapitate him.
The axe comes down one last time. And if there's any consciousness left, if there is anything in that husk that is Pierce at all, you feel confident that his last seconds, his last moment, is one of absolute terror as he sees the shiny axe blade coming down, stained with the blood of tens, maybe hundreds of people. His head slides away, bobs down below the surface of the water, and then his body begins to crumble, scatters, turns into ash like powder sprinkled across the water, and all is silent.
Barry's just on top of that ash pile, panting, axe in his hand.
Barry, we should go.
Wisteria and Robert managed to arrive just at this point in time.
Oh.
Don't ask.
She looks at the Inquisitor, points the rifle away. It's alright. They're under my control.
Gotcha, he says. Assets. Blank body assets. Gotcha.
Yes, entirely. What a pity that the Inquisition killed Pierce. Let's get out of here.
Oh no.
I already had a backup plan. He confessed.
Oh, okay. That's okay too.
And he's just gonna look at Evelina. Just thank you.
Like I said, you're the only one.
Gil's voice calls from down the tunnel. Hey! Everyone okay back there? Evelina, your bat's spot on. We can get out this way. Hurry!
Let's keep running.
I love that bat and just run away.
By the way, thanks for saving us all, Evelina.
And so we zoom out. We zoom out and take in the sight of the Church of the Guiding Light, this nondescript, run-down, turn-of-the-century colonial building weathering under time and a long, bloody history. 3 black helicopters circle overhead. Peals of gunfire still ring out. Screams cut the night's silence as the Inquisition moves in and takes it. But by the time the gunfire stops, by the time the smoke lifts, by the time the night is quiet once again, the coterie is gone. One of the Inquisitors standing in the doorway of the church reaches for his belt, unhoists the walkie-talkie, brings it up to his mouth. This is Unit. This is Harkin of B Unit. Come in, come in. All blank bodies cleansed. 3, including 2 in the sub-basement. Any additional casualties? No. Mission accomplished. What about the others? We'll find them. We found her before. And now she's running scared. Won't take long. And with that, we shall end this exciting session. As 5 vampires make their way under the cover of darkness, leaving Camarilla territory behind, and in the midst of it, the Church of the Guiding Light now in the hands of the Inquisition. The war for Buckley has begun. But before we end, we have a short little epilogue. Barry, says Prince Wild, gesturing to invite him into the room behind the bar. Take a seat. Understand there were casualties tonight.
Yes. Thaddeus is dead.
I could tell the look on Wisteria's face. Job well done.
There was one complication.
Tell me about it, he says, leaning back in his chair.
Pierce revealed himself to be a traitor.
Pierce? A traitor, says the Baron. He fought very hard for the cause. It's because of Pierce that I'm able to call myself Baron at all. He leans forwards, and the smile on his face drops. And what evidence have you to back up this accusation?
Bring up the phone. I've got a confession of him not only making severe Masquerade breaches as the bunyip, but also him giving Kezia my name, thus furthering the Camarilla plot.
And so
its mass embrace.
I see, he says. He lets the recording on the phone play out, and then once it's finally over, he shrugs. So whether or not he knew Kezia was a traitor, you gave her your name, intending to make you disappear, and she sent one of her own to embrace you instead. Either way, it is done.
Baron, I'd like to nominate myself as your new sheriff.
I was going to say, I'm in need of an enforcer, and say what you will about Pierce. He wasn't much of a conversationalist. He didn't have a head for politics, but he was so good at being an enforcer. Barry, do you still hold the axe in your hand?
Underneath my new dusty coat.
At this point, you take it out, unsheath it, lay it out across the bar. The beast in your head purrs with relish, with anticipation. The Baron reaches out, he picks up the axe, he hefts it, he nonchalantly cuts the air, he shrugs. He hands it back to you. Job's yours if you want it.
Very well, sir.
But what of your sire? Taking out Pierce is all well and good, but your sire is still out there. And he still embraced you.
If war's coming to Buckley, we're going to have to play their cards soon. He'll be here. And when he is, he'll face justice.
Sounds good to me, says the Baron. After all, where does happiness come from? It comes from reaching out and taking what we want. Life isn't going to give you everything, and unlife even more so. but someone who can reach out, someone who can take it, someone who can make their own mark, stand tall and say, "This is me." That I admire. You may consider yourself my enforcer, Barry, but there will be responsibilities that come along with it. And I need your word that from this point onwards, your commitment is to the Anarch cause and nothing else. Family, vengeance, none of that means anything when the Anarch cause is under threat. And while I certainly hope those who did you wrong are brought to justice, if you're going to be my enforcer, I need you to do as Pierce did. I point you at someone, and you take them, no questions asked. Because the sanctity of the Anarch cause depends on it. Are we in agreement?
Of course so. We just see it in a different light.
Well then, come, stand, he says, motioning. We've got an announcement to make. And he steps out of the back room, out into the bar proper, holds his hands aloft, and he says, "Everyone, I would like you to meet our new enforcer, Blade of the Anarchs, Barry Marwood." Lyra and Fern, seated at the bar, look up. Fern nursing, a glass of whiskey, Lyra sucking on a bottle of Coke. The broadest smiles on their faces. And then the Baron turns once more to the crowd. And would he see Wisteria there?
He would, though she's looking at her watch. He has things to do.
Perhaps doesn't notice when the Baron looks over at her, when he smiles at her. But she will notice when the celebration dies down, when the clapping stops, when Barry is paraded around the room by the Anarchs, or when the few mortals in attendance, even they give in to the clapping and the cheering, even though they're not sure exactly what they're cheering for. No, not at all aware that they're cheering the appointment of a new monster in Buckley. After it's all done, Wisteria, you feel a tap on your shoulder. And you look up and see the face of the Baron beaming down at you like a doting father. "Wisteria," he says,
Sebastian.
holding out a hand.
She takes it gracefully.
"You have made me so proud this night, Wisteria. So proud." And he holds out his arms to embrace you.
And she awkwardly gives him a hug. Her mouth twisting up and down, realizing, oh my god, I do have daddy issues.
The rest of the kindred in the room watching silently as she reluctantly gives in.
She just
Go
leans
ahead.
into it after a while. It's like, okay, gotta make it look good.
Leans in to his arms and he hugs you. He hugs you tightly, and as he's hugging you, he leans in and he whispers into your ear, "You made the right choice, but now there is so much more to do, and I know you will be by my side every step of the way."
Don't worry. I've only just gotten started.
He finally releases you. And then he gazes around the room, basking in everyone else's stunned looks of awe. He clears his throat. He holds his hands aloft. And he says, "For the Anarchs!" as he reaches for his drink.
For the Anarchs. And she'll get one of her own.
The kindred in the room cheer, "Anarchs!" And the mortals in the room sheepishly reach for their drinks as well. And we fade out. Well done, guys. You each get 5 experience points. And Barry, you get a dot of Anarch status to reflect your new state as the Baron's Enforcer.
There you go. Pop off the old one, take his jab.
And the monsters of the night continue to scheme and plot, as they do, as creatures such as we.
Creatures Such as We is a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast presented by DM Fiat. Creatures Such as We is based on a sourcebook by Brian Holland, available at the Storyteller's Vault. Vampire the Masquerade rules are developed by Onyx Path Publishing and Paradox Interactive and published by Renegade Studios. Portions of the materials are the copyrights and trademarks of Paradox Interactive AB and are used with permission. All rights are reserved. For more information, please visit worldofdarkness.com. The music used in this podcast is composed by Kevin MacLeod, Whitebat Audio, and Ivan Duke, and is used with permission.